The smoke alarm had gone off twice before I gave up and let the salmon dry out. He was late again. I didn't text, didn't call, just set the table for two and lit the little candles he'd once joked made our place look like a restaurant that didn't serve customers. The wine bottle sat unopened. My phone buzzed once, some useless app notification, not him. By the time the lock clicked and he walked in, the candles were half wax and my appetite was gone. I didn't even stand, just watched him hang his coat like it was any other Tuesday, not the day he asked me to be his wife 6 years ago. He looked at me, briefly, then at the table, then walked over, still in his work shirt, sleeves wrinkled, collar a little limp. I kept my arms crossed, didn't need to say much. He already knew. "You didn't say anything," I said, quiet but sharp. "You forgot, didn't you?" He paused, hands resting on the back of the chair across from me. No, I didn't forget." Something in me flinched, like I'd braced for impact, and it never came. "Then why—" He sat down, slow and deliberate, folding his napkin, not looking at me. "I just don't celebrate disrespect." That was it. No raised voice, no apology, not even a sigh. Just that one sentence delivered like a receipt he wasn't going to argue over. The kind of quiet that slices deeper than shouting. If you're still listening, and any of this feels uncomfortably familiar, hit like and subscribe. Most people just listen in silence, but that one click tells the team these stories matter. He poured water into his glass, took a sip, like he was alone, like I wasn't across from him, stomach tight, heart stuck somewhere between fury and disbelief. "Disrespect?" I finally asked. My voice cracked a little, though I hated that it did. He didn't flinch. "You roll your eyes when I speak. You smirk when I try to plan something. You talk about me to your friends like I'm an inconvenience you're too tired to replace. So no, I didn't forget. I just don't mark the day anymore." I stared at him, trying to find the version of him I once knew in the lines around his eyes. He looked older, but not tired. Just done. He reached for the salt, shook some onto his plate, then glanced at the untouched salmon across from him. "You didn't eat?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. Something about the way he sat there, completely composed, unmoved by my silence, made me feel like I was talking to a locked door, not a man. The clock behind him ticked loud in the quiet. Somewhere outside, a car honked, a dog barked. Life moved on. Inside, I sat frozen, not because he yelled, not because he stormed out or slammed a drawer, but because for the first time in our entire history, he didn't care whether I stayed or left. And that terrified me more than anything. He didn't bring it up the next morning. No, about last night, no look of regret, not even an awkward shrug over coffee, just packed his lunch, kissed the dog on the head, and left without touching me. I stood in the kitchen a full 5 minutes after the door clicked shut, arms wrapped around myself like some invisible wind had just moved through the house. The plates from dinner still sat in the sink. I didn't wash them. That week, I told Lisa at work he was emotionally distant, told Amber he hadn't touched me in almost a month, told myself that if he wouldn't come toward me, I'd start walking my own way. A new gym opened up across town, boutique style with eucalyptus towels and women who wore matching sets. I signed up for the trial class on a whim. Afterward, I booked a cabin near Sedona for the end of the month. Just me, yoga, rocks, sage, the whole reset cliche. I didn't tell him until I'd already paid. He barely reacted. "Enjoy the time," he said. That was it. I changed my email signature, dropped his last name like a coat I didn't need anymore. When my coworkers asked about it, I said it felt cleaner, more me. They smiled. "Good for you." I thought he'd say something, anything, but he didn't. Just came home one night and quietly took down the photo of our wedding from the hallway, replaced it with a framed print of a mountain range, the same mountain range I'd booked near in Sedona. He didn't throw anything out, didn't sleep on the couch, didn't text cryptic lines at midnight asking if we were okay. He just started making edits, tiny ones. The following week, I noticed his pay hadn't hit our joint account. I called the bank, heart racing slightly. They said it was rerouted, new account, listed under his name only. I checked the safe in the closet. The documents were gone. The deed, the prenup folder, the file marked estate. I asked him about it later, trying to keep my tone light. "Just organizing things," he said, not looking up from his phone. I told myself he was bluffing, that he'd cool off, that this was just some long sulk. But the longer it stretched, the more I realized something had shifted. He didn't slam doors, he just stopped answering them. I left my passport on the counter one morning, visible, deliberate, hoping he'd ask where I was going. He glanced at it once, then went back to folding laundry. I started talking more at work. Sometimes I feel like I live with a ghost, I told one girl in accounting. She nodded like she understood, but I don't think she did. Because the thing is, ghosts haunt you. They whisper, linger, knock something off the shelf just to be noticed. This man wasn't haunting me. He was erasing himself, deliberately, carefully, and without apology. And I was starting to realize he wasn't trying to win. He was preparing to leave with nothing he didn't choose to carry. I told the office I needed time off. No details, no flair, just used the vacation days I'd banked and never touched. The kind people usually save for honeymoons, anniversaries, or funerals. Mine went to none of those. I didn't take the interstate. I drove the back roads, the kind with peeling signs and gas stations where the pumps still clicked. A friend of mine from years back had mentioned a place, nothing fancy, but quiet, far enough north to feel like a different life. I rented it long-term, paid in cash. I packed the truck carefully. Tools first. My workshop always came before clothes. Then a duffel with basics, jeans, flannel, boots, one small lockbox with what mattered, copies, originals, photos I hadn't looked at in years but wasn't ready to destroy. I left the books she hated and took the ones I loved. That felt fair. I didn't leave a note, no warning, no blowout, just a silent fade like a screen going black after the credits roll and everyone's still waiting for the twist. At the cabin there was no service, no Wi-Fi, just the woods, the wind, and the steady tick of a wall clock that didn't ask questions. I bought a prepaid phone at a gas station 3 towns over and left it off most days. I forwarded important mail to a P.O. box I could check when I felt like it. That was enough. She didn't call. Not at first. The first sign came a week later. An email from her, short and sharp. You could have said something. I marked it unread and closed the tab. Another week. A text this time. Are you okay? I stared at it for a while. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because part of me wanted to feel something when I read it. Guilt, maybe. Longing. Even spite. But there was nothing, just silence. That's when I knew whatever this thing had been between us, it had bled dry long before I ever left. At night, the fire in the cabin crackled like it knew more than it should. I'd sit in the wooden chair by the window, watching the trees sway. I wrote in a small leather journal she'd given me back when things were good. The irony wasn't lost on me. I didn't block her, didn't ghost her in the juvenile sense of the word. I just stopped offering access. She used to know everything, my schedule, my habits, the way I took my coffee, the kinds of podcasts I listened to. Now she didn't even know what state I was in. A mutual friend messaged me, hesitant. She's worried, said you're off the grid. I replied once. I'm not lost, just somewhere she was never willing to follow. I didn't hear back after that. The funny thing about silence, most people mistake it for surrender, but sometimes it's just the sound of someone choosing themselves without making a speech about it. It started with a picture, late afternoon light, her old yoga mat unfurled on the deck, glass of wine catching the sun like she'd planned the moment down to the shadows. The caption read, "Heal, don't chase." I wasn't surprised. Not anymore. She'd always known how to package pain, especially when the lens was pointed her way. The post went up around 4 p.m., and by 5:12, it had over 100 likes. Heart emojis, fire emojis, little bursts of validation. Her friends lined up like cheerleaders. You go, girl. So proud of you for choosing peace. Men don't know what they have until it's gone. I read them all, slowly, like a man flipping through a file that no longer needed to be updated. But then, right near the bottom, buried between sugar-coated comments, there it was, one line. Better than what? No profile picture, no name, just default gray, like the absence of identity made the words more surgical. It sat there for 6 minutes, then disappeared. Not long after my phone buzzed, her name on the screen, just a single message. Was that you? I didn't respond, didn't even tap it open. Just let it sit in the notifications panel until it cleared itself with the next update. She posted more the next few days. Solo coffee by the lake, brunch with the girls. A story captioned, Boundaries are sacred over a candle and a blank journal. But the comments shifted, a few less likes. One person asked where I was, another joked about her always finding herself on vacation. Harmless on the surface, but the tone had changed. Narratives are funny like that. You can control the photo, the caption, the filter, but not the timing. Not the shape of the hole someone leaves when they stop performing for the camera. I didn't retaliate. No cryptic quotes, no vague tweets. I wasn't tracking her posts out of spite. I just wanted to see what version of the story she'd tell. Turns out she preferred a version where I was cold, absent, dismissive, and easy to sell, easier to believe, but without me there to be the villain in real time, she had to keep the momentum alive by posing as the survivor. She didn't know how to mourn without an audience. When people asked where I was, she said I was taking space as if it were something we'd negotiated together. She told her sister I was going through a phase like this was a haircut or a hobby I'd abandoned once I calmed down. She didn't know I wasn't angry or lashing out. I was done. And when someone's truly done, there's nothing left to correct. No version to defend. No seat to reclaim. I saw another post go up later that week. Just a quote on a beige background. "You'll miss the moments you took for granted." There were fewer likes this time. No comments at all. It sat there like a room no one wanted to walk into. The wind had picked up that day, enough to rattle the eaves and whistle through the gaps in the cabin's old frame. I'd chopped wood that morning, stacked it in neat rows, swept the hearth like I had nothing but time. The fire was steady now, clean burn, no smoke, just the low crackle of something reliable. Around 3, I heard tires on gravel. A truck door closed. I didn't get up. Just poured 2 coffees, one black, one with a little oat milk, the way he always took it. My friend stepped in like we hadn't skipped a year. Wore that look only people carry when they've seen too much and don't ask dumb questions anymore. He didn't waste time. Just set the folder down on the table next to my mug. No label, no explanation, but I already knew what it was. I opened it. The first page was a screenshot, time-stamped, GPS tag still embedded. Her, the man I'd remembered from 2 retreats ago. No yoga mat this time, no candlelight, just 2 wine glasses, a patio, her smile not posed. The name was underlined twice. I recognized it. From a group text she once handed me her phone to read. Just an old friend. She said, that day I believed her. Page after page, DMs, photos, itinerary receipts, even a spa appointment booked under her maiden name. The same weekend I was home building the garden box she'd circled in a catalog and then forgot about. I didn't flinch. Not then. Not now. I highlighted 3 dates, just for myself, not to confront, not to accuse, just for the record. My friend didn't speak. He knew better than to ask how I felt. That part was over. The hurt had already come and gone, like a cold front. I'd sat through the storm, shivered through the night she claimed she needed space to reset, told me I didn't understand emotional exhaustion. Now all I felt was clarity, cool, sharp, precise. I closed the folder, folded it once, clean and deliberate, slid it into the drawer beneath the firewood matches. We sat for a while, the 2 of us. He drank his coffee. I watched the flames bend around the logs. He finally spoke. "You want me to do anything with this?" I shook my head. "Not yet." He nodded, like he expected that answer. Sometimes justice doesn't wear rage. Sometimes it waits, organizes, sharpens. There's a moment between discovering a lie and deciding what to do with it. I was living in that moment, not broken, not panicked, just ready. She found the envelope tucked behind the gate latch, like it had been placed with care, not thrown, no stamp, no return address, just her first name in handwriting she hadn't seen in weeks. Mine. She stared at it for a long time, trying to guess what it meant. Not a plea, not an apology, just a line written in ink that hadn't smudged despite the morning dew. One conversation, no audience. She read it again, then again. No drama, no accusations, just an offer, quiet and direct. She left that afternoon, didn't tell her friends, didn't post the drive, just packed a small bag, threw on a jacket, and headed north. 3 hours, a single gas stop, no music. She followed the directions she once ignored when I tried to show her photos of the place. back when it was just a vague dream of mine, a cabin for the quiet, space away from noise. She found it just before dusk, wind biting at her sleeves, shoes crunching the gravel path that twisted up to the porch. Smoke rose from the chimney in a slow, steady line, not chaos, not desperation, just normal. No car in the driveway. Mine was parked around back, deliberate. The porch creaked beneath her weight. No welcome mat, no doorbell, just a handle. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside, the warmth hit her like a wave. Firelight danced along the stone hearth, casting slow-moving shadows on the floor. The place smelled of pine and cedar and the faintest trace of coffee. She took a step in. The wood floor didn't creak beneath her. She saw the table first, set for 3, 2 plates carefully arranged, silverware aligned, napkins folded. The third seat was empty. She didn't speak, not yet. Her eyes scanned the room, landing on the framed photo above the mantel, one she didn't remember taking. We were younger in it, maybe happier, or maybe just pretending better back then. She heard movement behind her, turned. I stood near the fire, arms relaxed and not smiling, just present. Across the table from her, seated already, him, the man from her retreats, her safe friend, her spiritual confidant who just happened to show up in every group shot she posted during her solo weekends. He looked smaller now, not in size, in presence. He wouldn't meet her eyes, she didn't speak. Her breath caught somewhere between her chest and throat. Then she whispered it. Why is he here? I didn't move, didn't raise my voice. Because you once said you never lied. She flinched. He shifted in his chair, glanced at the fire, then down at his hands. She reached for the back of the nearest chair like she needed to steady herself. But this wasn't a trap. It was a room with a table she helped build, every omission, every shrug, every half-truth. She had come expecting a storm, a fight, some final tantrum before the papers, the split, the goodbye. Instead, she walked into a space where everything had already been measured, arranged, lit. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I just gave her one thing she hadn't given me in a long time, a seat, and the full weight of her own decisions. The clink of cutlery was the only sound for the first few minutes. 2 plates sat untouched, steam curling upward, one with roasted lamb and winter vegetables. His, one with lemon risotto and grilled asparagus. Hers, I knew her favorites. I hadn't forgotten. The third plate sat empty, bare ceramic under the flickering candlelight. A placeholder, a mirror, a silence. I stood near the fire, one hand resting on the mantel, the other holding the folded linen napkin she'd embroidered years ago, back when details mattered. He sat stiffly across the table, back straight, eyes on his water glass. Not on her, never on her. She stood near the door, half in shadow, arms tight across her chest, jacket still on, breath shallow. The warmth in the room didn't touch her. She stared at the table like she'd walked into a scene rehearsed without her because she had. Her voice broke the stillness. This was supposed to be our anniversary. I nodded once. It still is. She looked at him then. Finally, 5 years dissolved in that glance. Old photos, half-lies, the way she once angled her phone just enough to crop him out when I walked past and paused. The cabin, the note. You brought me here for this? No, I said, calm. I brought you here for truth. He's just part of it. He shifted in his seat, cleared his throat, still didn't speak. She stepped closer to the table, eyes scanning the details. The bottle of red wine, our wedding year, the place cards, handwritten, the music low in the background, an instrumental piece she used to hum in the shower without realizing it. Every part of the evening said, I remember. Every part of her expression said, I wish you didn't. She turned to me slowly, the firelight catching the sheen in her eyes. Why is he here? I didn't raise my voice, just nodded toward the empty chair. Because you said you never lied. She froze. He finally looked up, but only at her. His mouth opened like he might say something, then shut again, jaw tight. She stepped back from the table, just once, like her body didn't know where to go. I didn't think it meant anything, she said. It was years ago. I held up a hand. This isn't a courtroom. No one's asking for testimony. You sat across from me every year on this date, said words about love and growth, and still chose silence about him. That's not a crime, just a choice. She stared at the plate set for her, hands trembling now. You don't understand? I understand perfectly, I said. You wanted the comfort of my commitment. With the adrenaline of your secrecy, I gave you one, he gave you the other. He stood up then, too quick. I didn't know she was still with you. You thought wrong, I said evenly, but I'm not here to punish either of you. She blinked fast. Then what is this? Revenge? No, I said, picking up the empty plate. This is clarity. I walked to the kitchen, set it down, and didn't come back. Behind me I could feel it, the weight of a dinner she didn't know how to finish, seated beside the man she pretended wasn't real, across from the absence of the one who always was. She had asked for honesty once. Tonight, I gave it to her, served warm without warning. The phone was already sitting on the table, face down, waiting. She hadn't noticed it when she walked in. Neither had he. Too much tension in the air. Too many ghosts already seated. But when I picked it up and tapped once, the screen lit up. One audio file, time-stamped. 47 seconds, I didn't preface it, didn't warn them, just press play. Her voice came first, unmistakable, soft, amused, the version of her she gave only to people who weren't me. You think he knows? Then his laugh. Low, familiar in a way that made the walls feel too close. He wouldn't dare ask, she continued, words wrapped in mockery. He's too afraid to lose me. Then nothing, just silence, but not the kind that fades. It lingered, heavy, loud in its own way. She didn't blink, didn't flinch. She kept her arms at her sides, jaw tight, breathing shallow. Like if she moved, it would make it all real. He leaned forward, hands clasped. Regret started to creep across his face like a shadow that took too long to arrive. I didn't know it would go this far, he muttered. I didn't answer him, didn't look at him. Instead, I poured the wine into 2 glasses, slowly, one for her, one for me. I didn't hand hers over, just set it down in front of her. She stared at it like it might burn. I sat down, calm, anchored. I didn't lose you, I said, eyes on the glass. I just let the mask drop. Neither of them spoke. There was no rebuttal, no outburst. She didn't deny her voice. He didn't deny his laugh, because you can only deny something when you have distance from it. But the room was too small now, the truth too loud. She opened her mouth once, then closed it, like the words couldn't find the exit. She reached for the wine glass with fingers that shook more than she wanted to admit. Across from her, he looked like he wanted to disappear, but couldn't figure out how. I didn't ask for an apology, didn't demand an explanation. This wasn't about closure. This was about exposure, and once light hits something long enough, the shadows don't get to lie anymore. I took a sip of my wine. No toast, no speech, just a man at the table they built from lies. Finally finished eating. The folder was thick, but not heavy. Just clean, precise. I slid it across the table. Its soft thud, the only sound between us. The fire had burned low, now just amber coals pulsing in the hearth like a tired heartbeat. She didn't touch the folder right away, just stared at it like it might hiss. I waited, no pressure, no theatrics. Eventually she opened it. The pages were clipped, indexed, underlined where needed. Property separation, irrevocable waiver, asset freeze. One clause at the top, no contest. Her brow creased as she read. The silence stretched, long and deliberate. Her eyes lifted slowly. No alimony? I shook my head once. No leverage. She blinked. This was never about revenge, I said. It's just a clean line. You get your freedom, I get mine. No monthly reminders, no buried clauses waiting to rot. She reached for the pen I'd set beside the folder, the same silver one she'd given me on our 3rd anniversary, engraved with initials that meant nothing now. She held it for a beat like she might say something, then signed, each page deliberate, unrushed. When she finished, she closed the folder and sat back, like something inside her had been removed. Not violently, just taken. Her voice was smaller now. And him? I leaned back in my chair, not smug, Just finished. His face is safe, I said, reaching for the glass of water beside me. Unless he forgets where it was seen. She didn't respond, didn't argue. She knew I hadn't made threats. I'd issued terms, quietly, completely. There would be no smear campaign, no headlines, no furious social posts. I didn't need the world to hate her. I just needed her access revoked. She looked around the cabin one last time, eyes lingering on the firewood, the kitchen where nothing had burned, the walls that had heard too much in too little time. I don't even know what to call this, she said finally. It's not war, I replied, just housekeeping. And with that, I stood, not to see her out, just to extinguish the flame that no longer served a purpose. Weeks passed, enough for her to believe the dust had settled. She returned to her routine, the curated one. Smoothie bowls, early Pilates, client meetings where she smiled too widely and never brought me up, not because she was ashamed, but because she assumed omission would erase everything. Friends asked how she was. She said she was healing, focused, in transition, words that sounded productive and mature, words that looked good online. She posted less. The comments had grown thinner, quieter. Even her usual circle had gone lukewarm, no more endless heart emojis. Just polite nods. She took a weekend trip to the coast, bought new throw pillows, rearranged the bookshelf, lit candles without realizing she was mimicking the cabin. Then, one Tuesday morning, she opened her phone while waiting for a coffee. The photo was already there. Suggested, not shared. It wasn't posted by anyone she followed. No likes, no account name, no source, just an image, a wooden table, forest behind it, green and blurred from soft focus, a single plate, knife and fork placed gently, a candle burned low beside a folded napkin, embroidered pale gray. The caption read, "Some anniversaries don't need reminders, just clarity." She froze. There was nothing traceable about it. No geotag, no filters, no faces. But she knew, the way a thief recognizes the sound of a lock they once picked. It didn't accuse, it didn't reach. It simply existed, a mirror left where she could find it. She stared at the screen, thumb hovering, tried refreshing the feed, but the image stayed. She tapped it. Nothing happened. No tags, no comments, no trail to follow. She sat back in the cafe chair, phone resting in her hand, like a weight. Across from her, a couple laughed. Someone opened the door, wine rushing in and pulling the scent of burnt espresso through the room. She barely noticed, because there, in that single frame, was everything she thought she'd controlled. She had asked if I forgot about us. She hadn't understood then, and maybe not even now. I didn't forget. I just stopped pretending us was still something to remember.